Hey folks, I have my friend Dale to thank for these guitars. He shot me a quick message on my business email and said, hey, there's these guitars going cheap, thought you might want them. And I grabbed 3 of them because they were going really cheap. I don't actually buy Oscar Schmidt stuff very often. I bought used, but not new. I think because it's hazy in my memory now, but I think the last budget Oscar Schmidt that I set up had an awful neck, and it just put me off. But these are made by Washburn, and I rave about Washburn. So I thought, why not? You know, a lot of luthiers actually praise these as being some of the best entry-level guitars that you can buy in the $150 price range. A lot of people, you know, stand by them, and so I thought to give them another chance. Anyway, this was an interesting conundrum. This is the Oscar Schmidt OG2NA, the natural version of the OG2. They make a lot of different versions. The seller that I bought this from had photos on his auction page of a very plain guitar without the. It looked like a Mac guitar, but it wasn't. It was a semi-gloss without the tortoiseshell style pickguard, with a inlaid wood rosette, without any of this bling, this sort of Pearloid. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got Pearloid bling all the way around it. I actually like the look of the plain one. It turns out that's the older version of the OG2N, and this is the newer version. It took me a while to establish that, because if you go to the Amazon page, they have pictures of the old one, and then it says upgrade guitar available, and you click on that and it still has pictures of the old one. But when I go to Oscar Schmidt's website, this is the guitar they have posted for the OG2N or NA guitar. So I'm fairly convinced that this is the newer version based on a little bit of research. Also, when my friend Dale told me about these guitars, he did mention that the guitar you receive is sort of an upgrade on the one pictured, which I promptly forgot about. My memory's terrible. But anyway, they actually, even though I like the look of the other one, these are actually really nice guitars. You can tell from my little playing sample. A little bit out of tune, but it actually sounds almost as good, if not as good, as the Javier guitar I played in the last video, which is a solid Sitka spruce top. Now they say this is a select spruce top, and usually if they don't use the word solid, it means that it is plywood. I don't see the plies around the rosette. I actually think this might be a pressed spruce top, which you find every once in a while. And of course, this is a very signature bridge style for Oscar Schmidt by Washburn. It looks like standard rosewood, mother of pearl inlays, all the standard stuff. There's the headstock with the bog standard tuners that are on everything these days. It has an interesting Pearloid back seam. If you like bling on your guitars, this is actually a nice little model. I suppose the tortoiseshell style, it's not real, it's plastic, you know, looks nice on this particular guitar. I prefer guitars without pickguards, but I know a lot of people like pickguards. But anyway, these I think are selling online for about $130, $140, somewhere around there. Of course, they come with that factory setup that leaves a lot to be desired. The action on these was fairly high. The fret ends were very pronounced. I needed to do quite a bit of fret end shaving and reshaping of the frets on this. It does come with a new bone nut and saddle, which is better than most budget guitars. And the woods and craftsmanship are actually fairly decent on this. It's all fully bound, the cream binding, heel cap, and of course the really nice back seam on this. I'm not a big fan of this sort of fake pearl stuff. You can tell right away it's not abalone. It doesn't have the color shimmer of abalone. It really just looks like fake pearl when you look at it. It's nice, and a lot of people will like it. It's just really not my favorite look on a guitar, but it's not for me, is it? So these are Oscar Schmidt's OG2NA model guitars. This is the newer version of the guitar, and I think for what they're going for, I think they're very, very nicely built, very rugged. They feel solid. They're not too heavy. The parts look decent. Quick setup is all you need, and you've got a good entry-level guitar. I think it's probably better than a lot of your guitars that are $20, $30 less on eBay, you know. Every time I want to think of brands, they go right out of my head. But there's brands like Artol and Rogue. A lot of sort of guitars you can get anywhere between $70 and $100 on eBay. And it's really a lottery. You buy those guitars, you may get a good one, you may get one that's warped. I think it's worth spending the extra $20, $30 and getting one made by Washburn under the Oscar Schmidt name. Now, a lot of times these budget lines of major guitars are less desirable. For instance, I don't really like Jasmines. I don't really like Maestros that much. You know, there are sort of all sorts of lesser budget lines where you're thinking, well, I'd rather just buy the parent line. For instance, you can get a Washburn guitar for, I don't know, $120, $140, $50. Why buy one of their budget line guitars? Well, Oscar Schmidt's slightly different. They do make some really good instruments, and in the ukulele world in particular, they have 2 or 3 models that are actually very desirable, nice solid top ukulele models. And I think it's the same with guitars. I think they actually have you know, some sort of almost mid-rangey stuff in their catalog, so it's not all just entry-level you know, rushed out guitars. I think they have some nice stuff in their line. Unlike the other Washburn budget line, Lyon, Lyon, I've had a couple of those guitars, and those are fairly cheap entry-level guitars. I think Oscar Schmidt is actually a cut above most budget lines, second budget lines of major brands. I think they're quite decent. So there you go. There's an Oscar Schmidt OG2NA. If you can get one for around $120. It's as good as anything out there, perhaps one of the better things at this price. It's not solid top, but it actually sounds quite resonant, very bright, very pronounced. Good little deal. All right, folks. See you next time.